Welcome to another weekly Forex forecast. We see here on the DXY, we finished the move into the low, what we were talking about the last 3 weeks already. We have to be careful next week because we have the Iran-Israel situation, which could give some bullish pressure on crude oil in general, which could then also affect the Canadian dollar. And we have 4 interest rate decisions next week. We have the FOMC, we have BOJ, BOE, and SNB. So quite a lot of red high impact news events to take care of next week. So right now we can see in terms of the DXY, we are sitting here just on the previous small low. That could be a double bottom for the next move to the upside. Going down to the lower time frame, we can see here on the daily time frame, we did actually have this V-shaped recovery with the double bottom, closing the gap here and then a sell-off again. And this right now looks more like we might see early next week a continuation to the downside and retesting this low once more before we then see a bigger move to the upside. This here looks more like a 1, 2, 3 right now, but of course with the situations we have now, it could easily just break to the upside. Moving to Euro US dollar, I just stay here on the 1 hour time frame. It's the inverse picture of the DXY, and we did tap into this high here to the left, the previous high, and then had a nice impulsive move to the downside and created a bigger expanding structure. And you can see here as well on the 1 hour time frame, this looks a little bit like a continuation to the downside, but we closed bullish. So I would not be surprised to see price going back up one more time, retesting the high, especially during a bit lower volume Asia session early next week, tapping the high, tapping back in, and then giving us some form of lower time frame continuation here. I would then enter a short, but overall I'm leaning a bit more towards a short now in the mid-term. New Zealand dollar, US dollar. On the daily time frame, we can see, actually let's start on the weekly time frame. We had here 2 high test weeks in a row on this more significant area of interest here. It's a bigger V-shaped recovery. We were looking more for bullish continuations, but we are in a higher time frame in an area in which a sell would make sense as well, especially when we see these 2 high test candles. Going down to the 4 hour time frame, we can see here the bullish momentum is not really off the table yet. So we do have a very nice liquidity area here. We have a potential first, second touch. And of course, if we see price forming finish this bull flag continuation, then yeah, we know we are still in a bullish run to the upside. However, right now with the situation we are in, and I'm leaning a bit more towards a risk off next week, I would not be surprised if price just drops below this liquidity point, and if we then get a lower time frame bearish continuation here, preferably even retesting this low here to the left, then that would be a prime area to enter a short. US Canadian, here we just start on the 4 hour time frame. We are in a bearish run, and we can see here right now we are in an area, there's nothing here to the left. We have this low, this more significant value area here to the left. So right now, as it stands, even if we say we are leaning a bit more towards a risk off, but with a very high likelihood for crude oil to go higher, which then would positively affect the Canadian dollar. So it would make sense for price to finish the run into this low here. And we can see as well that price really respected structure fairly well. It started even up here, so we had a V-shape, a small continuation, another V-shape, a small continuation, a bigger continuation, a 1, 2, 3, here a small running channel with 2 continuations, and now we left this very nice liquidity area here. I'm looking for price to retest this area, either if it's in form of a 1, 2, 3, which would be perfect, then to enter a short in this area. But again, I would not be surprised if it just tap into this high again, and then followed by a lower time frame, 15 or even 5-minute continuation here, to then enter a short in this area. Euro Australian dollar, on the 4 hour time frame, we had We finished this nice structure here, a 1, 2, 3 into this liquidity area, even then tapped higher into this area, where definitely was more volume, and we failed to sell off twice already. So we failed to sell off here. We had some reaction, and I was looking for a continuation for a short here. Then we tapped into the next higher area of interest and failed to sell off again. So right now I'm still leaning more towards Euro Australian dollar long, and therefore I'm looking for price to finish this bull flag structure, actually forming another top here, coming back down and closing the gap to this liquidity area, and I then would happily enter along in this area. Would also make sense in the bigger picture of more risk off approach next week. Euro Canadian is a bit different. As we said, Canadian, we have to treat Canadian dollar a bit different right now in the environment we are in. We finished the structure as well here with the 1, 2, 3 into this liquidity area here, into this smaller continuation, even though we still have a gap to the high, the next high on the higher time frame value area. We had a very nice washout and a clear reaction here on the third high, and I'm now looking more on the lower time frame for a bearish continuation. I would like to see price finish this structure here, retesting this very small liquidity area here to the left. This is a bit more significant, but overall the structure is then getting a little bit too big. It's still just barely on the 50% retrace level, so it could be possible to form a bigger retrace here before we see a continuation. But right now I'm leaning a bit more towards a momentum play and would like to see a 1 hour structure here in this area to then enter a short. Euro Yen, the yen pairs, of course, they are positioned for sells. We have BOJ next week, so we have to be a bit careful, but again, with the overall risk off approach next week, we are leaning more towards yen strengthening overall, and so I'm looking for price to finish the run into this previous high here to the left and give some form of reaction in form of a lower time frame bear flag continuation in this area to then enter a short. Canadian dollar, yen, very similar for price, just for price to retap this high here to the left once more before we then see the bigger reaction to the downside. Canadian dollar yen is a bit different in terms of price action. Looking here, I still have here some, that's not important. Looking here where we are positioned, we discussed that a few times. We had this impulse, then this correction. We are in an impulse run, could still retest this high here to the left, and it's a safe haven currency against a safe haven currency. So I would like to treat that a little bit different. Going down to the 1 hour time frame, we can see here we have some clear areas which we could expect some reaction of price. We have this liquidity area here to the left, and if we see a very deliberate bull flag continuation, then we know we are still in for a run to the upside to close the gap to the high. However, if we see price breaking below this area and then we see bearish continuation flag on the lower time frame, of course I would change my bias like in all the other yen pairs and then going more towards overall yen long approach. Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar on the daily time frame, we can see I'm expecting Australian dollar to be slightly weaker than New Zealand dollar, and we can see here we had this value area here to the left. We had a strong reaction here, retested this clear liquidity area here in form of a V shape, and are now in a bearish run to the downside. And if we look just in terms of proportion, we had a nice impulsive run. We are now in a correction and we are looking for the next impulsive run, at least retesting these lows here, and that's more or less in the middle of this run, so that would make sense for price to finish a structure here. And I'm looking here on the 1 hour time frame for price to finish this structure, preferably retesting this liquidity area here to the left and then enter a short to the downside. And then of course crude oil, In this case, we are looking overall based on the fundamentals for a long. We do have, I'm here on the 1 hour time frame, we had this very strong impulsive move based off news events. Of course, we left this liquidity area, we have here a gap, so ideally we see price coming back down into this area, filling the wick, and then we get some reaction from these levels here for a long. However, I don't think we will get this move here down that far down again, and so I would not be surprised if we just see a momentum run next week, early on Monday, just price finishing the structure here on the 15-minute, retapping this small liquidity area, and then go for the next run at least into this high, or actually a lot further up. I would not be surprised. Like, everybody's talking for crude $100 or 120. So if everybody's talking about, yeah, we might see the big run to the downside first. So yeah, we will see. But overall, it would make sense in terms of technicals. This is for me the line in the sand. So if we see a strong break below here and then some form of bearish continuation, what I really doubt to see next week, then of course I change my bias. Otherwise, I'm really more leaning towards long and searching long entries on crude. So that's it. A bit short today and a bit late, of course. So sorry for that, and thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye bye.